So we gotta show up and hold them accountable, because them earning $70K a year isn't doing it. $70K can't afford accountability. You can't buy accountability. I know that to be true because we've been out here doing this for free. We pay in our spirit, our energy, and our time. And for a lot of the people out here, they pay in their lives. You're standing on stolen ground. You're standing on indigenous genocide. You're standing at the lynching tree of Justin Tigan, Cornell Handy, Marcus Golden, and the list goes on. We don't got the death penalty, but we sure as hell got the St. Paul Police Department. And white folks may be standing up here saying, I voted Democrat, I don't stand for the death penalty, then why the fuck you out here? You better get uncomfortable, because when they lynch you, man, you better come out here and stand up. The same way you do when you stand up against the death penalty, when you stand up against guns. Stand up, bring that same energy. Bring that same energy. You can't tell me that if you've seen Django Unchained or Roots or any movie where they sick the dogs on a man, you didn't think of that when they sicked it on that naked man popping out the dumpster. That's the same damn thing. And I'm tired of having to hear the list of what he did, what his past is, what he didn't do, what he's about, what his record is. Let me tell you something. I don't care what that man did. He don't deserve to be bitten by dogs, tased, and then shot multiple times. That's the bottom line. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to show up to a conversation where I have to immediately defend a body of melanin who's been shot, tased, and bitten by dogs. That's not where I'm at right now. You can take that somewhere else. Start at baseline. That man didn't deserve that. And you see this happen so often with black men and men of color going through health issues, mental health issues. And then we write them off as criminals, crazy, or niggas.
Say that!
We write them off as not human. You bring that same energy that Soren said you bring for a light-skinned person or a white person that you would bring for Jonathan Trevante Washington. Bring that same energy for your neighbor that you bring for the unhoused. Bring that same energy for the person you don't know for the person that you do know. And the BCA, the Bureau of Cop Apologists, they can take that shit all the way back home. They're not protecting anybody but themselves. And Todd Axtell, this is the first time he's had to humble himself on camera this often. And he better keep doing it. He better get used to it. Because the Minneapolis Police Department is sloppy. They do their killings on camera. But make no mistake, you don't become number 18 in the country out of 18,000 for the most lethal police departments in the country without doing your killings off camera. That ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right. They do their killings off camera and then present the product to you that they're protecting you. Bullshit. That's that bullshit. That's that bullshit. And the last thing I want to say, and just pardon, I know that a lot of men of color are seeing this a lot, and I know in a lot of other cities, you see a lot of men of color leading and whatnot, and for some reason here in Minnesota, you know, that's kind of void a little bit. And I don't know for what reasons or why not, but I'm asking my brothers and my just kinfolk to come to the lead. This city needs you. These people need to hear you speak. These people need to know about the work, and we need y'all. We really need y'all, because it's tough to watch the lynching tree of George Floyd, Jamar Clark, all people that look like us, and then not see us around there. And I know that we don't trust some of these operations, organizations, or whatever it may be for our own past, because we've been built, we've been constructed to not trust certain things, but we need to come up. We got to start speaking. And I don't hold it against you if you don't, but I'm just saying, you you have my trust and you have my confidence because I see myself in you and I see you in me. And I know that it's tough, but we got to start coming to the forefront because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mel Reeves. And I know some people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. We got to keep passing it down, pass down the ladder. And we got to give it up for folks like Tashira organizing events like this that are putting their lives on the line. Say thank you, Tashira.
Thank you, Tashira.
Thank you, Tashira.
Thank you, Tashira.
All power to the people.
Thinking of that, we're going to call all of the speakers that
And make sure y'all are filming this because they might try to spin this. Make sure y'all are filming.
Right up next to them.
If the ambulance wants to get through, it can come through. You got a clear lane. You got a clear lane.
Let's go!
Nobody ever wrote a song called "Fuck the Ambulance." Let that ambulance through.
Out here, and thank you to Tashira for taking the lead on this. So what I'd like to talk about today is the history of the St. Paul Police and their K-9 unit.
Up a little.
The K-9 unit for the St. Paul Police Department. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, if I recall correctly, the St. Paul Police is not supposed to use attack dogs anymore. They said they were going to use their dogs for like the drug searches and whatnot because of the history of the St. Paul Police K-9 unit.
Right.
So one of the names that of the stolen lives from St. Paul's, Pumi Lee. And when Pumi Lee was killed, an officer shot his weapon, but also the K-9 handler released the dog at the same time. It almost appeared that she was startled. And what we saw in the video when they released it was that the dog was feeding on his throat. So as people said he was dead, but if your vocal cords are ripped and torn, you cannot scream or yell anyway. And when the autopsy came back, the dog had literally like chewed his throat and eaten it. So they had a video online, and they removed it after I did a post about it. They removed it, and you could hear the dog lapping up Pumi Lee's throat, just lapping and drinking, while 3 officers stood by. They just stood there talking and allowed the dog. It's kind of like what they call get your bite, right? But they let that dog feed on Pumi Lee's neck. So also, we had a man who was just going to work, who was attacked by a dog, a St. Paul Police K-9, and as that went to court, they had the nerve to lie and say it was a case of mistaken identity. The original caller called in to say there was a group of youth, a group of black youth. This man had salt and pepper hair. He was an older man going to work, and the St. Paul Police had to pay out on that lawsuit. The man's legs were mangled. On top of that, the St. Paul police officer beat him and had stomped on him, and his lungs had collapsed also. So this man could have died. He is maimed for life. He has serious scars and injuries, places where there is no flesh on his legs and his side. The K-9 attacked him. We also had the woman who was attacked when the St. Paul police. Yes, Desiree Cummings, yes. And she only had one hand. And the dog bit and attacked the arm that had the hand that was usable and had the hand. So she was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she said the police were really nice until she got a lawyer. That officer, she was actually taking her trash out when the dog supposedly just broke his chain or something, his collar, and got loose. They gave that dog 10 chances to release. They called the dog 10 times. When have St. Paul police or Minneapolis police ever given a black man an order to do something 10 times before shooting?
Tell that. Tell that.
Never. But did they shoot the dog? No, they told the woman to relax. But the dog is pulling on her arm. And I believe she had lost some use of that arm and that hand. So they do not have control of the dogs. 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago now, a K-9 was removed from the handler because that dog had bitten two different people in 2 different instances. One, it was exercising at a park and it ran and attacked somebody. And then another time it just got loose and attacked somebody. So St. Paul police have no control over their K-9s. They're irresponsible. And also, we need to have a record of those dogs and track those dogs. And those killer dogs need to be removed from service.
Stop them
That's what
dogs.
we call them, vampire canines.
That's right.
And they are dangerous to the point where the canine unit was at the Minnesota State Fair. And after an incident, the mayor literally pulled them out of the State Fair show because they were just too dangerous. And they had to assess the situation. So St. Paul Police should not have released that dog on this man, particularly he had no clothes on. That is inhumane. And since my people have been in this land, we have been chased by dogs.
Listen!
That is historical trauma to us. To hear that, to see that. That it is still happening. And the reason that a police officer was fired is because the man lived to tell his story. Because we know that St. Paul Police Department will get rid of video.
Yep.
Cordell Handy, when he was killed, the same footage that they had cell phone they released footage from, they did not release the video footage of him getting shot. Now, guess what? They can't find the video.
Interesting. Wow.
Interesting.
I'm shocked.
Justin Tigan. Oh, can't find it. Marcus Gold, there is none. Well, wait a minute. Oh, there is some. So we know that they'll release video when they want to release it. They'll hide it when they want to hide it. And they'll edit it when they want to edit it. Justice for Ronald Davis. That was some edited stuff right there. And it took them 2 weeks to release it. But this, they could release right away. Any other time it's pending investigation, we can't release it. So we know that St. Paul Police will release what they want to release, when they want to release it, in the format that they want it shown. Because we also know at this incident, there were officers who were closer. But they chose to release the video footage that had the least clarity. So we know that the footage from the officers, because they're required to wear body cameras because they can't be trusted, and we know that they lie and cheat and murder and plant evidence. So they picked that footage. Well, let's see the footage from the officers that was shooting. Let's see the footage from a closer perspective. Because there's no reason to shoot this man 3 times. He deserves his day in court.
Absolutely.
And the respect of a human being, irregardless. So when they stop treating us black people like we are food for their dogs, then maybe they'll have some peace. But until then, fuck the police and stay in the street.
Right? If you said to your friends or anybody that you knew, even people that you didn't know, and said, yeah, I got completely naked and jumped into a dumpster, they would tell you, you're out of your damn mind. Right? So it's obvious. If we all know that this man was not in his right mind, why couldn't they know that? You know, and in no way am I excusing or justifying any of the behavior that he had due to his mental health. But when someone is that low and unstable and unarmed, at what point do the police say to themselves, you know what, maybe we're not the best people for this job?
Right.
You know, if the police are called to protect and serve, in this incident, who were they protecting?
Themselves.
Who were they serving?
White supremacists.
In what scenario are police officers armed with tasers, guns, and K9 units going to be the ones to protect this man? If you want to say that they were trying to prevent this man from harming anybody else, that's fine, but he was in a dumpster by himself. If you want to say that they were trying to protect the other officers, how many of them were harmed? If you want to say that they were trying to protect him from harming himself, shooting, tasing, and sicking your dogs on somebody is a pretty strange way to try to do that.
Correct. That's right.
And if you watch the video, if you listen carefully, did you hear her say, watch out for the taser because the dog is on them? They don't want to hurt their dog, but they was fine tasering the man. You know, I go to a bunch of the Trump rallies, back the blue rallies, just to talk to the people. I would say talk, sometimes it turns to arguments, sometimes it gets heated, but that's beside the point. And at one point, they'll always bring up the argument, you know, police kill more white people. And I always ask them right back, is that good policing to you? And every time they freeze, because how stupid do you have to be to think that killing white people makes you a better cop than killing black people?
Listen!
And the truth is, if this same scenario happened and it was a white person, I would still be out here marching for them for their justice. Because the police brutality is still the same and it's not right.
Right.
So it's obvious that the police no longer serve and protect the people. They protect and serve themselves, they protect and serve the rich, and they protect and serve property.
Right.
We don't have the money in our communities to provide shelter for the unhoused, but we have money to evict them from their tents and throw all of their belongings away. We don't have money to provide rehabilitation services to drug users, but we have money to arrest and jail them. We don't have money to provide mental health services for our people, but we have money to shoot, kill, and arrest the mentally ill.
Right.
So it's obvious what defund the police means. Y'all just don't want to understand it.
Exactly.
But not only do we need to defund the police, we need to abolish policing as we know it. Because it's not working for our communities. And I was talking about this situation to my mother last night, and she said, well, wasn't the cop fired? And my response to her was, if this happened a year ago, would they have fired him?
Right.
And as I look out to the people in this crowd, some of them have suffered greater losses. And if this cop has been fired, I think it's time that we go back, look at the rest of these cases. Because some of these cops who have done far worse things are still roaming these streets with a gun and a badge. If we've gotten to a place where firing cops who acted poorly is the thing that we do, let's hold them all to that standard. Because if the cities can't commit to Civilian Police Accountability Council, if they can't commit to defunding the police, if they can't commit to abolishing police, incidents like this will continue to happen.
Right.
And if they're tired of us showing up and marching and speaking and stopping traffic and taking highways, then do something about it. Because we are going to keep showing up and fighting for what we know is right.
That's right. That's right. Come on, Randy.
And we try and be a voice for the 54% of Americans who lose their lives to police brutality, who live with mental illness and other related disabilities every single day. I was standing on the I was standing at a protest on Sunday, and I had a cop tell me that he didn't like my attitude very much. And so I told him, I was like, well, I don't particularly appreciate you standing on people's necks for 8 minutes and 46 seconds either, so I guess neither of us are going to be happy. And we're here today because we aren't happy.
That's right.
And we're here today demanding justice for every single life in the state of Minnesota and across this country that continues to be lost because of killer cops.
Come on. Period.
And we come together and we huddle as a community and we move forward as a community, and we're not really afraid.
Not at all.
I don't really give a fuck if you don't like my attitude.
Not at all.
But what I do really care about is that we get widespread systemic change across the state. Yeah. So that we can prevent another George Floyd, another incident like this from happening tomorrow. The autism community. There was an incident actually right here on this light rail station. Yeah. Several years ago, a young man by the name of Marcus Abrams, on the autism spectrum. And he was just standing on this light rail platform on his way from the state fair. And the cops told him and his friends to stop roughhousing. And Marcus, because he was on the spectrum, responded a little slower. Metro Transit PD beat him to the point where he had 2 seizures. When he got there, he was unrecognizable. The autism community came together, they huddled as a community, they got with the city in St. Paul after repeated incidents of kids being beat up on light rail platforms, tackled in the streets, for the sole reason that they have a disability. And the autism community got together, we huddled, we moved forward, we made widespread systemic change. And last year, the training that the Autism Society developed for cops was mandated statewide. But that is how we do it. Cops and the system do not make change. That we move forward as a community together to make change. When we were standing on fucking I-94, when Governor Walz had this brilliant idea to teach us all a lesson, and then shut down his own highway for an extra 5 hours. We huddled together as a community, and I'm ready to go back on the highway. When I was sitting at my house a couple months ago, and I was having a rough night, people showed up at my house, and they huddled around me, and we moved forward as a community. So I encourage people not to lose sight of, as much as people try and divide, as much as people try and separate us, as much as people treat us unjustly, that we stand united, that we're ready for change, and we are going to be here, and we're going to fight, and we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting for Justin Teigen, for Jamar Clark, for Kobe Heisler, and every single life that has been lost unnecessarily in this state, where the public officials sit there in mobile buildings and do nothing.
That's right. That's right.
And so, November 4th, we got rid of some of them. It's time we get rid of the rest of them. Because the power belongs to the people here in the state of Minnesota. It belongs to you and I. We are the people's mandate, folks. We got a people's mandate. We need to move forward, and we need to demand change, and we need to take that power back and demand that changes be made. And we're going to do it together. We're going to stick together, and we're going to fight this bullshit. And we're going to move forward and do better. Because clearly, they can't.
My name is Chaz, and I'm from TCC4J, and I reside in Red Wing, Minnesota. The reason why I come down here is to stand in solidarity to know that it's not just in Minneapolis, it's not just in St. Paul. Just last year, March 27th of 2019 in Rochester, Minnesota, there was a man that was tased to death by police, Albert DeSalle. I want people to know it's not just our criminal justice system, it's our schools as well. We have to be all over this. CPS, this goes back years. If you can even look at Minnesota and Duluth in 1920, 100 years ago, 3 black men died innocently from a mob being killed.
Mob lynching.
For rape, for something he didn't even do. And yet her ancestors are still around in control of our state, but yet nobody says anything. We do, but they say we don't say anything. And yet we lean on Democrats who are not our friends. I want you guys to know that. They are not our friends.
Fuck the Democrats.
And I'll tell you that why they're not our friends, because where I'm from, most of my city council is Democratic. But they let their police chief put a cease and desist order on me today.
Right.
Which is a police chief. But he's scared of what? What are you scared of? I don't understand that. We come out here peacefully. You have white Proud Boys, supremacists, that come out with guns. We come out with signs and flags. There's a big ass difference.
Right.
And I see people that on the chat talking about, oh, what about COVID? I'll tell you like this, since they wouldn't want to go by stats, for my age, I have a better survival rate with COVID than I do about here riding these streets.
Right.
Thank you very much.
And that ain't right. That ain't right. Come on.
If we don't get no justice,
We see it, everybody see it. If you don't see it, you must be blind as hell. You must be Stevie Wonder, man. And even Stevie Wonder can see this. You feel me? The racism, man. This shit gotta stop, man. I can't even fathom. Let me put this here. I can't even fathom how much this shit gotta stop. We gotta stop being called niggers. Number one. We definitely gotta start this system all the way over from the police. I mean, from the mass incarceration, bringing our brothers and sisters back home, putting them back into our kids' life. We gotta have some centers built into our communities. This $500,000 that they gave to the police, we need to defund the police and refund the community. That's how we're gonna get equality. Straight up, this is how we're gonna get equality. Put more centers out there for our youth, for our kids out there, man, to do something. Man, the COVID-19 is killing us left and right, and not just COVID-19, but just staying in the house in general. Just staying in the house in general. We can't even exercise. Kids can't even exercise PE classes no more. Kids can't even go down the street and play at a park no more. We have to have something in place for this. You know what I mean? And thank God that we have a community like Minnesota standing strong, because we're gonna put those centers out there for the kids. We're gonna continue to be boots to ground. We're gonna continue to have people pushing these paperwork and pushing these laws and making sure our Black caucus is coming out here and standing in solidarity with us as well. Man, I ain't gonna preach too much, man. Man, it's cold, man. Y'all can go ahead and follow me. Cortez Rice, United We Walk. # United We Walk, man.
Give yourselves a hand. Seriously, give yourselves a hand. I think my brother Donnie said it earlier. You know, you had other stuff you could be doing, but you chose to come out here and put your butt on the line, so to speak, to stand up for what's right. That's a good thing, isn't it? And let's give a hand again to Sister Tashira. Right? And the young brothers that went before us. Right? Give a hand to them. That's how I started. I wasn't always this old. And let me tell you something. I think that I'm still around because I have been standing up for what's right. Right? I think that's why I'm still around. Because I've been doing the right thing. You know, now people will say, man, why'd you come out here and march? What you getting cold for? You know, what difference is it gonna make? Let me tell you something. That boy that shot that man the other night would not have been fired if we had not been out in the street marching. That wouldn't have happened. That's right, y'all. So let nobody fool you. I heard somebody out there say, well, marching don't work. I said, well, brother, you ever heard of something called the Civil Rights Movement? You know what I'm saying? For folks who are a little older, you remember apartheid in South Africa? When they marched, they fought, it don't exist anymore. So marching does count for stuff. And they're right. At some point, we got to do something more than marching. Yes, we will. And before you do that, somebody pointed that out earlier, you got to get in the books. If you're going to fight police violence, you got to understand what police violence is. You got to understand its history. And when you study it, you're going to find out something you ain't going to want to know. That you're going to learn that the police exist because this dirty, low-down, rotten system needs that kind of police. That's right. They police the way they do because this system requires it. That's right. And you won't change nothing unless you look it in the eye and see it, call it for what it is. Then you have a chance of changing something. And you notice that when that man got shot the other day, and I want to make this point because they're trying to call us out. They're trying to say, well, they're going to say again, oh, you guys are heroizing somebody that's a bad person. Listen. We're not out here to justify his sexism, his misogyny, right? His assault on that woman. What he did was wrong. He'd be absolutely good. What he did was absolutely wrong. But what he did does not warrant a death sentence. Right? Now again, you got to keep it straight in your mind. They say you live in a nation of laws. So we live in a nation of laws. If you do something wrong, they're going to punish you. If the cop does something wrong, they're supposed to punish him too, right? That's right. In a nation of laws, they don't shoot you for jaywalking, right? They don't shoot you for stealing from Target, right? You're supposed to go to jail. Now you gotta get them with their own word. They said it's a nation of laws, so it's a nation of laws. Not only should that dude be fired, that cop, that pig be fired, he should go to jail. If I shoot somebody, they sure taking me to jail. If you shoot somebody, you are going to jail if they catch you, right? And so you got to recognize, pay attention to what happened here. You notice in the film, and Malik is right, they didn't show us the right film, but it's interesting. Do you notice the man, she says, hey, come out of the garbage now. Now everybody by now knows that he was naked. Watch this. He was naked. He came out of the dumpster, right? And the woman yells, what did she yell? Gun, gun, gun. Now, unless his privates look like a gun, how in the hell does she think he had a gun? Right? Think about how crazy that was. Now, go back and look at it. She's yelling gun with a butt-naked man. Right? You can clearly see he ain't got no gun. You can see that, right? So why does she say gun? This is why you got to change your mind. That's why you got to study. Because people have been programmed to see black people as threatening human beings. You see the problem there? So she's programmed to see black man, he's threatening, he must have a gun on him. You see? She yells gun, he doesn't have a gun. And the rest of them, take a minute and pause. The one guy who's supposed to be the good cop, by the way, this year, he's a good cop. He's got all kind of awards, and he shot the man, which tells me that the problem is this system is a rotten system, right? The whole policing system is rotten, right? And we've got to change it. Brother Man was right. We can't just talk about defunding the police and leave it in place or disbanding it. We've got to get rid of the whole thing. And that's going to be on y'all. But you all going to have to save us because they're not going to do it. You see, every time we go and ask them to do X, Y, and Z, y'all vote in the Democrats and we get the same thing. I'm going to tell you something. You know what they say, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results, they said there might be something wrong with you. Right? That's exactly right. I was just trying to be nice about it. Right. You're insane. And y'all ain't insane, are you? So you gotta do some different stuff. Now, one of the things you want to keep doing is marching and fighting, but you want to be studying and figuring out how ultimately you're going to take this thing down and change it. Because if you don't, you know, anybody paying attention to climate change, this is true. Nothing but facts. If you don't change it, they're going to bring it down on our heads anyway. Right? I'm just telling you like it is. So we don't want the cops to be defunded. We want to get rid of this system as it stands. And also, the Tashira, you see these families coming out here, our demand, I'm glad the brother mentioned it, is like he said, if they can arrest one cop, they can go back and arrest them all. So our demand is that they reopen all the cases. Do what? Do what? So you see these sisters and brothers coming out here, you stand with them. And our demand is that we reopen all the cases. Every last one of them. Right? Every last one of them. Right? And we can get it. Because after the civil rights movement and people kept fighting, they had to go back and open up some of them own cases. Y'all remember that? Because people were putting pressure on them. This thing can happen. You must believe. Don't quit. Don't give up. If you get tired, go sit down and rest. Call your friend. Have a pity party if you need to. Rest if you need to. But don't quit. You hear me? Don't quit. You won't win if you don't quit, right? But if you keep going, you might just win. Thank y'all.